Hello and welcome, Fish here with another BMS 434 video. In this video we're going to look at a voice attack profile I've created for BMS 434, and the video will be in two parts. The first part we will look at the profile in action in the game with a number of different commands and command sequences. And the second part we'll be looking at the structure of the profile, and this will facilitate anybody who wishes to adopt or modify the profile to their own needs. It will give an understanding of how it's done. We also look at the menu.dat file because in the context it's important that whoever's using this profile understands a little bit about how the menu.dat file is structured. So let's go into the pit and have a look at the profile in action now. Ground. Remove EPU pin. Ground. Remove chocks. ATC common. Request QFE. Ground. Taxi for departure.
Good morning, Falcon 1, you're number 2 for departure, taxi and hold short, runway 08. Falcon 1-1, contact tower for takeoff, switch 26950.
Tower. Ready for departure.
Falcon 1 to Chan Tower. Position and hold, runway 08.
Pilot on. Tower. Ready for departure.
Falcon 1 to Chan Tower. Wing 120 at 4 knots. Runway 08. You are cleared for takeoff. Contact departure.
Departure. Airborne.
Falcon 1, T-John approach, fly heading 355.
Hide pilot. AWACS. Request picture.
Falcon 1-1, Chalice 1, picture clear.
AWACS vector. Vector to tanker.
Falcon 1, Chalice 1, tanker, Mexico 1, bearing 0651 miles. Backhand channel, United Yankee. Falcon 1, Chalice 1, tanker, Mexico 1, uniform 29345.
AWACS vector. To tanker.
Falcon 1, Chalice 1, tanker, Mexico 1, bullseye, 112, 117, backhand channel, United Yankee. Falcon 1, Chalice 1, tanker, Mexico 1, uniform 29345.
AWACS vector. To home plate.
Falcon 1, Chalice 1, home plate, bearing 135, 40 miles. Falcon 1-2, on my way. 3, 4.
ATC approach. Request vector to visual approach.
Good morning, Falcon 1-1, T-John approach. Welcome back. Vector severe auto approach, runway 08. H2976. Focus 11, descend to 6,000, maintain 250 knots, runway 08. Focus 12, turn left heading 115, descend to 7,000. Focus 13, turn left heading 120, descend to 8,000. Focus 14, turn left heading 120, descend to 9,000. Focus 11, climb to 4,000, maintain 230 knots, vectors to final, runway 08. Focus 11, turn left to final approach course 080, check speed. Focus 11, contact towers on final, switch to 26950.
ATC Tower. Request landing.
Falcon 11, reach on tower. Continue inbound for runway 08. Falcon 11, reach on tower, wing 120 at 5 knots, runway 08, cleared for landing, check gear down. Falcon 11, contact below, switch to 3.
ATC ground. Request taxi back to ramp.
Focus 11, taxi to the ramp, you're cleared all the way in.
Okay, we're going to now look at the VoiceTAC profile and how it's constructed. I will start by looking at the menu structure. And this is a summary of the menu structure in the game. I've got it categorized into the entities. And the entities are AWACS, wing, element, flight, tower, and tanker. And for each of those entities, there's one or more menus. You can see for the tanker one, there's only a single menu. But for all the other ones, there's multiple menus. And what I've done is I've summarized the description of these. It's not exactly the same as they come up on the menu screens in the game, but they are a simpler way of being able to call them and differentiate them. And you can see there's some commonality between the wing, element, and flight menu items. You got combat 1, combat 1 in each of those, and formation 1, formation 2. And they, once again, this makes it easier for you to remember those menu items and call them up in the game. As you saw from the demonstration in the previous part of the video, all commands are called in two parts. And the first part calls the entity menu item, and the second part calls the action. So the example there you can see is the first part of the command is AWACS vector, which sends a QQ to the game, and the next part is vector to home plate, and that sends the number 6. I use all of these descriptors as phrases in the commands in VoiceTAC, but there are additional ones for convenience and for greater immersion. Let's put this to the side now and have a look at the menu structure in VoiceTAC. So we have the profile BMS 434 up there, and I'm going to go to the edit part of the menu. And for those not familiar with VoiceTAC, this is not a video demonstrating how to use that. There's plenty of videos showing you how to do that. But just for reference, I'm going to go into options and show that we're using the F12 key is the hotkey in this profile. So let's go to the top of the list here, and we can see we have our menus grouped, and I've categorized them according to the entities along here. So we can see we have ATC, AWACS, element, flight, actions, tanker and wing, and we've got a couple of other special commands in there, and I'll go through those as we come across them. So for all the ATC commands, you can see the ATC call up the menu items. So let's look at the ATC here, and we can see the menu items that are being called. So under the category ATC, you can see there are several menu items, and they correspond to the menu items on our list here, which is in the game. And you can see for each one of these commands in the profile, it matches one of the menu items in the game. So we call these an entity menu. So we can see for the first one we have ground, and we should find a ground here. They're not necessarily in the same sequence here because it's alphabetical in here. So we can see here we have ground, and to call up the ground menu here, we can use the following phrases. We can use ATC ground, air traffic control ground, or simply ground. And the same principle applies to all the other ATC type menu items. And let's have a look at the structure of one of these by opening it up. And we can see there's two parts of it. First part is plays a small sound, and the second part presses the T key. There's one nuanced menu item there, and it's the common one. And I have a number of additional phrases in there. ATC common, ATC control information, ATC information, base information, and common. So any of those phrases will get us that menu item up on the screen. So let's move on now to the AWACS, and we can see we have AWACS. The backslash indicates that we have an additional option in there. So AWACS can be called up for the following phrases: AWACS main, sentry, sentry main, or AWACS, AWAX. And the AWAX is more phonetic, and it gives a better result in voice attack. So for the second menu, we have AWACS vector and sentry vector. Once again, this is just an added phrase I've put in to make it more immersive and give you more options. So let's look at the element commands now. And the element can be called using the element phrase or the three phrase. So to call the menu commands, the element menu commands, you can see we have the sequence there. It'll be a combination of the word element or three and the menu name. So you can see here element combat 3, element combat 1, 3 combat 1, element combat 3, 3 combat 3, element combat 2, 3 combat 2. They correspond to these menus here. Next one's the flight, and it's a simple flight combat 1, flight combat 2, flight mission, flight formation 1, 2, 3, miscellaneous, and you can see I have miscellaneous here, and there's a number of other phrases in there. I have the other in there for miscellaneous, so we have element miscellaneous, 3 miscellaneous, 3 other, and element other. So the flight, you can see it's simply flight combat 1, 2, and so on. Let's move on down to the tanker, and the tanker main command here is tanker or tanker main. They both bring up the tanker menu. The tanker commands are added in as special commands here, and I've got 3 separate commands for those tanker commands because they're easy to remember and they're quite important to be able to do them quickly when you're concentrating on connecting or disconnecting from the tanker. So I've given them individual commands alongside the menu command items. So we have tanker pre-contact, tanker request fuel, and tanker main. Finally, the wing. Wing can be called by using the phrase wing or the phrase 2. So you can see wing combat 1, 2 combat 1. So the other additional commands that I have in there, the first one here is cancel and backspace. And you can see cancel, command, backspace, back or previous, and that is essentially gets us the escape key. So this is useful if we want to go back from a menu or cancel a menu without issuing a command. We're going to leave these items to the last. Let's look at the other commands before we do that. So I have some documented called special commands here. You can see one here is pause and unpause the sim, pilot switch to pilot on and off, and start recording and stop recording. And again, you can remove these or you can use these to your own desire. The only thing is you need to make sure that the keys that you're using match the keys that you've got mapped in the game. they don't use the default keys because I've got my own mappings for those keys. You can see here there's not that many menu items, despite the fact that there are I think there's about 220 action items when you combine all the menu actions together, and you can see the profile is actually much shorter than that. I'm going to show how this is done. Okay, now we're going to talk about this special group of commands here called actions. And you can see the actions are grouped from 1 to 10, and I prefixed them each with an item number. Item 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And each of these represent the command which will generate the number determined in the prefix there. So item 1 is going to generate a 1, item 2 will generate 2, 3, and so on. So let's have a quick look at item 1. And we can see this command is going to generate a 1 key, and it's going to play a sound beforehand. So all the commands play a sound. So when I say the following phrases here, we're going to generate a 1 key. So we're going to look at these phrases and see how they break down and how they're structured and how that works. We're going to just pop them into Notepad, and I'm going to unparse them to show them what they are as single commands. And now we have the composition of that item 1 command. So basically, when any of these phrases are issued, the game a 1 key is issued to the game. And remember, each of the menus have an item 1 in them. So these represent the action 1, the first item on the list in each of those respective menus. And we can have a quick look of how I derived this. Basically, I took the menu.dat file. Let's have a quick look at the menu.dat file. So the menu.dat file comes from BMS Data Art and CkptArt folder. And the first part of it is related to where the menu appears on the screen. We don't need to worry about that. And the next part refers to the sequence of the menus, it's blocked off into the menus and the sequence in which the menu items appear. Now it says there, please do not modify the following lines. So if you're going to do any modification to this file, I would suggest always take a backup of it before you do. Now there's certain things that I'll talk about that you can't change, and certain things you can change. You shouldn't change any of the information on these panels here, or on these numbers here, because they relate to what these actions do in the game. But what you can do is you can change slightly the phrases that appear on the screen, because that's all these do. Similarly, the description of the menu header can be changed, because that defines what's on the main page. It's probably not advisable, but there are some things that I find, some descriptions that are phrases that don't work perfectly in VoiceAttack, and I've had to change some of them. It's only a small number. What you're looking at here is the modified file, and we can see that these should match the items in this list here. So if we go through the menu items here, and we can see on the AWACS page we have a request picture, which is the first one. So we should have a request picture somewhere down here, and these are done in alphabetical order. So we do have a request picture there, so we can see they match up. If we go down to nearest threat, which is the vector page, we have a to nearest threat. For some of these menu commands, I've added additional phrases, and for instance, we have the vector to nearest threat was the original menu item, and you're going to see in your menu.dat file, you'll see the following phrase, and not the one that I've shown there. And I just find it, I've just put that in because I don't want to be repeating the word vector when we want to issue a vector command. So the next one we can see is attack my target. And again, if we go up to the top here, we can see attack my target, rejoin, rejoin. In each of these menu items here, the first item on the list will be found somewhere on this list, because there are additional ones here in here that are not in here already. So notice that we have close up in there, but we have close up, if I go and find it here, we have it in 3 separate places in this, so we only need to have it in here once. And the reason why the game won't get confused is because we will have the appropriate menu item called up before we issue the close up command. So we'll be, in this case for instance here, we will be calling, I think, I'm not sure, let's have a look at which one this is. Yeah, this is a wingman. It's the wingman group. So what we'll be doing is we'll be calling wing formation 1, and I don't use the word management there, I just use formation 1. So it's wing formation 1 followed by close up. If we were to do it for the flight, we'd be doing the same thing. It'll be flight formation 1 close up. All the other menu actions are assembled in the same way, and I do it from a database, an access database. We'll just have a look at that very briefly. I have a full list of commands here, and they're grouped by the entity, as I described at the beginning. I've given them an entity ID. It's not used really. I have a menu, and that's the menu name that I use from my short list of menus. And then we have a position ID and an action. So the action position ID is the location that this action is on that menu. I also have a type, because I want to keep the BMS separate from menu items that I've added in or phrases that I've added in myself if I need to change those. And what I've done is I parse that list up in such a way that I can select the item and I get the phrases, the list of phrases that I need to use for that command. So any changes I do to the menu items are done by adding to our command list. We can see we have 280 commands in there, and when these are grouped up, there's a smaller number because some of them are duplicated, and we don't need to duplicate them when we come to this part. You can see the last one, which is number 10. It's actually, there's only one menu with a 10th item on it called Go Cover. So it's simply a matter of selecting one of these, knowing which one it is. It's item 2, copying it out here and coming into our voice attack for item 2, select it there, remove what's there and paste the new one in. I've taken the list out and put them into an Excel sheet, and I can just remove the filter, and I'll make this available for anybody who wants it. You can see I've separated the commands which are BMS related and ones which I've added in. That's pretty much what I want to say as to how this voice attack profile works and is put together. Thank you for watching. I hope you found it useful, and feel free to download files for this from the description page. And always remember, if you are going to use the menu.dat file that I've given there, make sure that you back up your own menu.dat file before you do so. Thanks for watching.